what's up everybody? Infamous NYC coming back with another video. I know it's been a little been a bit busy and a bit sick. Coming back with an update for the Warden, what I'm particularly going to be running. I'm sure many people will be running Stam Warden. Stam Warden got buffed out the ass for the coming Dragonhold patch, and I'll probably be playing a little bit more Stamina Warden and Stamina Necromancer. Are probably going to be your top DPS characters for if you're looking for battlegrounds. I do a lot of battleground footage, but this build, of course, will be still useful for either BGs, no CP, or of course for open world. With that said, there were some slight changes, as you can see, to the Warden. Cutting Dive got a bleed associated with it, so when you hit an opponent with Cutting Dive from more than 7 meters, it puts them off balance. So in CP, it doesn't really matter all that much because you can off balance somebody with a dodge roll via the CP tree. You can see over here, here we go, via Exploiter, it says it increases damage done against off-balance opponents, and then people typically paired that with Tactician. So they put 120 points into the HO CP tree to get to the Tactician, and it says when you roll dodge an enemy attack, it says you set your opponent off balance, and that's typically in CP how people would set people off balance to take advantage of the Exploiter. Of course, it does give the option to not have to go 120 into that CP tree. That's entirely up to you whether you want to go that route or not. But now you have access to it via Cutting Dive. The other thing that's good is that it opens up, for example, using different sets that will take advantage off of the off-balance status, namely the Truth set, which is one option and that you can use. But it also gives you a bleed. So when you do set the opponent off balance, it says if you're more than 7 meters away from the target, you set them off balance for 7 seconds. If the enemy is already off balance, the Cliff Racer rips through them, causing them to bleed for an additional 7,900 over 7 seconds. This effect can stack, which is going to be a bitch. It was a really stupid idea. I'm not the one that made the ability. With that said, though, the other benefit of the off-balance status is that it gives you a way to regen more stamina. So whether in CP or in no CP, you can consume the off-balance status effect by hitting an opponent with a heavy attack. And so when you hit someone with a heavy attack who's off balance, it will 1, stun them, but 2, it will also give you twice the amount of regen that you get from a heavy attack. So that's one of the benefits, which is kind of how, like, for example, Dizzy Swing got changed. Dizzy Swing got changed so that when you hit somebody with uppercut, with Dizzy Swing, it sets them off balance, and then you can hold your left mouse button as you're doing the Dizzy Swing, and then release your mouse button right after it finishes. You do kind of like this medium hit from the side, and of course that counts as a knockdown. It will consume the off balance, and of course knock down your opponent. So in terms of no CP, how that's beneficial is, of course, it gives you access to stunning your opponent that way, but it also gives you access to regen, because a lot of your regen excuse me, is going to come from heavy attacking with dual wield. The Warden, on the other hand, gains an additional benefit because of the change to Arctic Blast, which is what I'll be running as well. So it says they changed Arctic Blast to Pulse, kind of like it literally has the same animation as Ice Heart, right? So if you'll see it right here. So I'll walk up to the opponent and you'll see it does a heal, but then it also stuns. You see it pulses, so really good, I guess, if you're fighting a Nightblade. As you see right there, boom, that he got stunned. But then it also, from the change in the color that you saw with the mob, it also has a chance to proc the chilled status effect. And so the chilled status effect also procs Minor Maim. We'll go here, see if I can off balance him. Too much damage. But in any event, the chilled status effect that comes from Arctic Blast, because Arctic Blast will pulse for AoE frost damage every 1 second. And of course, anybody that gets hit 3 times gets stunned for 4 seconds. And this lasts, it's 6 meters. It's fairly big, especially because it's mobile, right? So you have pretty good mobility. So you can kind of keep up. It pulses every 1 second. So it's really good if you're fighting Nightblade, etc. It's really good for pulling out Nightblade. And of course, it gives you a heal, gives you access to his name, as well as giving you a heal. So it gives you a pretty decent heal for a Magicka dump. It is fairly expensive. On the build that I am going to be running, I shouldn't really have much of an issue in terms of my Magicka management. But it gives you also gives you a hot. As you can see there, it says it pulses for 800 HP every 1 second for 5 seconds. So it gives you the almost a little over 10,000 for the 3,900 Magicka that it costs, as well as dealing damage, as well as while slotted giving you extra mitigation because it gives you an additional 500 to your armor and spell resistance, as well as pulsing for damage, as well as proccing the chilled status effect, which will proc the minor maim. So it's a lot packed into one skill. These are some of the changes. The other change that was unfortunately I couldn't show in this build was the change to Swarm. The morph of Swarm that got changed, it was renamed to something else. The growing Swarm got changed to a stamina dot, and that gives you 100% uptime on the minor vulnerability. And it's like 36 meter range on the PTS when I showed it. I'll post a clip at the top where I talked about that ability even more. But so that it'll give you access to 2 dots because I'll be running the other morph of Swarm, and of course when your target is already off balance, the cutting dive will also put a bleed on them. So you're basically rotating. You've got 2 dots plus your basically burst spammable, which will be subterranean. Between heavy attacks, subterranean, and your 2 dots plus the damage from cutting dive, Warden has a lot of damage packed into it and a lot of mitigation from being able to proc minor maim, which they really couldn't do before outside, at least Stam Warden. Stam Warden really wasn't proccing minor maim unless he was running Permafrost, and that was really the only way that you could proc the minor maim. The Permafrost did get nerfed in terms of the amount of damage per second, but it got increased to 12 seconds. Previously it was 8 seconds, and then of course the damage was reduced by 50%. So in essence it does the same amount of damage, it just does it over a longer period of time. So it removed a lot of the, I guess, burstiness from the ultimate, but it gave you more utility from having higher uptime on the major protection for both you and of course for your team, and of course a longer time to proc the minor maim from Permafrost, as it is fairly big, being 10 meters. But you don't have to run it. I'm actually going to run DB. I'm going to run the other morph of DB that gives you the weapon damage on this build, and then drop bear. I'm going to swap out some of the sets that I'll be discussing in a minute. Excuse me. So with that said, I'm going to showcase the build that I'll be running. This is my Warden. My Warden on live is an Imperial. I'll be running the Warrior. This is a no CP build in Cyrodiil, all points into stamina. In terms of the sets that I'll be running, I would run 1 Chuden and then 1 Pirate, or whatever you have. Whether you have, I forget what the other one is, Lord Warden, you could run whatever you have. And I'm running 1 medium and 1 medium, as you can see right here. And I'm running Impen. This one is stamina. This is Triglyph. In terms of the 2-piece that I'm running here, I'm running the Elysian set for the extra physical resistance. On live, I believe, actually on the PTS, I believe, let me see if I have a piece that gives any armor, where I think they made a change. See on what you will see is they changed all of the sets that give you, like, for example like this set, right? So any set that gives you a line of just physical resistance is now going to say just armor. And what that means is, instead of just giving you the line of physical resistance or giving you just the line of spell resistance, it's actually going to give you both. But on crafted sets and on drop sets, it's going to be cut in half. So the only exception will be on the 1-piece sets. So the 1-piece sets that give you both the physical and spell resistance that you can see right here will not be affected for the coming patch. It'll just say one line, and it'll just say like the amount won't be affected. The amount that you receive will still be the same, but instead of saying 1 and 1, it'll just have a 1 line and it'll say armor. And basically what that means is that anything that previously gave you either physical or spell resistance will be cut in half, but it'll give you half of each to your physical and your spell resistance. So on this build, it'll probably sit like around 26 and change, like 26.8, and then the spell resistance will be boosted to about 28k fully buffed up. This is a medium armor build. So I'm running 2-piece Elysian for the extra mitigation because it is a medium armor build. This is a high mitigation build with a lot of damage packed into it. So I kind of wanted to run this to have a lot of uptime because I'm not really running what's it called? I'm not running Vigor on this build, so a lot of the healing is going to come from the Warden abilities, Green Lotus, Arctic, and of course, burst heals from Rally. And then, of course, whenever you cast any of these abilities, it's going to give you back a small heal via the passive. The other set that I'm going to be running is the Hulking Draugr set for the max stamina. You can see our stats right here. This is no CP. So no CP in medium armor, I've got 25.5k, 15k max magicka with 33.6 stamina. These are my recoveries with a pot. Here's my weapon damage. This is 100% uptime on this weapon damage because I'm running the glyph on the front bar. Right, so this is 100% uptime with 4330 dual wield, 27% physical weapon critical, and then you can see the resistances right here, and then the effective weapon power of this build is 9,000, which is fucking ridiculous. Like I always talk about having an effective weapon damage. If you're running a DPS build, you want to shoot for 7k. Like Warden just so overtuned. Warden's so overtuned in comparison to a lot of other builds. Really hard to get like this much mitigation on a lot of other characters, but I don't make the game. I just make the builds. And this is 100% uptime on effective weapon power. This isn't like with something proc. This is literally 100% uptime on 9,000 effective weapon power. So like I said, I'm running medium Hulking Draugr is going to be the other set. 2 pieces of the Elysian or whatever you want to craft for the extra physical resistance. Well, I should say for the extra armor. You can run whatever you want. This is just what I'm running for the additional 2-piece. Impen, basically, I believe I'm running Impen except for the chest. The chest, your armor piece should always be reinforced to give you 1% extra mitigation. Everything else is Impen. In terms of the jewelry, everything is robust. And then I am running Curse Eater. I'm running Curse Eater. It's going to pair really well with the Blue Betty on the back bar. So this is going to give you a lot of mitigation from debuffs as well as other dots, as well as the change to Blue Betty is it removes a negative effect. So you can see it on the PTS as Alive isn't up yet, but the Blue Betty got changed. Excuse me. It says every 5 seconds the net removes 1 negative effect. So it removes 1 negative effect on cast, and then it removes an additional 5 over the course of 25 seconds. So, and of course it got buffed to return roughly 5k magicka over the course of 25 seconds. So originally it was 27 seconds, and then they moved it down to 25 seconds for obvious reasons, because it removes a negative effect every 5, but it also removes a negative effect on cast. So it works really well with the Curse Eater set, because Curse Eater set is whenever you heal, you see right here, it says when you heal yourself or an ally with a direct heal, right? So whenever you go to your back bar, and you can animation cancel with a bar swap, it removes 3 negative effects, but the Betty also removes a negative effect as well. So it's 4 negative effects whenever you need to rotate to your back bar. Let's say you got debuffed with either major or minor defile. Before popping your rally heal, you'd want to animation cancel the Betty and then pop your heal with your rally on your back bar, and then re-rotate back to your front bar. Or if you're facing multiple opponents and you had maybe like a few too many debuffs on you, you can go right to your back bar, rotate that off, remove 4 negative effects, and while you're attacking, you continually remove a negative effect every 5 seconds for the full duration of 25 seconds. So you're gonna remove 6 total with 1 cast of Betty. Super strong for the Warden, making it really hard to have abilities stick onto the Warden, especially running Curse Eater, because Curse Eater procs every 8 seconds. So it's a lot of uptime, plus it gives you access. It says here, if a negative effect was removed this way, it says your target restores 600 magicka. So that gives you extra magicka, which works out into this build for making sure that we're able to cast Arctic Blast. And of course, the Blue Betty gives you a lot of stamina magicka return. As you can see here, it's about 5k over the course of 25 seconds. So just in terms of regen, what is it that the Betty returns? So it's just roughly 5k, and it's over the course of 25 seconds, which is the equivalent of 400 regen for free. I don't make the game, I just make the builds. Right, so Betty's going to give you an additional 400, and then whenever you cast and then remove a negative effect from with Curse Eater is going to give you an additional 600 if you were to proc it every 10 seconds. It's 600 divided by 10, which is going to give you an additional 60, which is the equivalent of an additional 120, right? Because it's divided by 10 seconds, just to conservatively say, if you go to your back bar and you recast Betty every 10 seconds just to remove negative effects, you're going to get an extra 60, but in terms of regen, it's times 2, so it's an additional 120 magic, a sustain that you get for free. Of course, the sustain that you get from Betty, the additional running 2 pieces of heavy armor is also going to give you a little bit of magicka and stamina return from heavy armor passive via Constitution. So you're going to get a little bit of sustain, which is really going to help you. And of course, our base magicka sustain with a pot is just 850. So it gives you a lot of magicka for making sure that you can keep a good amount of uptime on Arctic Blast for all of the effects that Arctic Blast does, as well as keeping Shimmering up and Green Lotus, and of course keeping your armor buff up, and then having access to Bird of Prey whenever you need the major expedition. That's basically how that works. I think those were the only other substantial changes that were made for the Warden. Just going back into the build in terms of the rest of it. So you can see the tooltips right here. Cutting Dive is almost 10k. It's fucking 9,800 Cutting Dive. Tooltip on Subterranean is 13k. The change to the Growing Swarm on the PTS, when I showcased it, and I showcased it with about the same amount or a little bit less weapon damage, and my tooltip was around, I think, 13k. I'll link the video at the top or at the bottom. So this would be a much more optimized build. I'll have to wait and see what it'll come when the patch comes out, and then I have to level the morph up. Now you can see the tooltip here, it's actually better. As you can see here, the tooltip is going to give you about 800 because it's based off of your HP, and since I am a Warden, so as a Warden, and of course as an Imperial, you have access to extra HP, but then Warden has access to minor toughness, which makes this ability that much better. In terms of the actual items, I'm running, of course, all weapon damage, robust, 2 maces for the pen. You can run whatever you want. I put disease on there for the chance to proc Defile. And then, of course, on the front bar, I am running the weapon glyph on the front bar, powered on the back bar. Whenever you're running rally and you're running dual wield, you want to make sure powered is on the back bar so that you minimize the amount of healing that you lose when you switch to your back bar. Powered will give you the additional 9%, which affects the tooltip of rally for when you go to your back bar to heal. I am running Shimmering on the back bar, Green Lotus there for the buff. Of course, whenever you light or heavy attack, it returns stamina, as well as giving you access to Major Savagery for the extra critical buff. Like I said, I'm running Rally for the minor endurance, as well as for Major Brutality and the heal. And then you can see the Blue Betty for obvious reasons. And then, of course, our armor buff. On the front bar, I am running Flawless for the buff. You can see the tooltip there. Plus, whenever you cast it, it gives you 300 weapon damage. It only costs 122, especially because Imperial gains a 3%, which isn't all that much, but you gain a lot of, which is why I like Imperial. I think it's a really good race because it also gives you access to resource manage it and, of course, cost reduction. So it's a really good kind of like middle ground. Still have good health, really good stamina, a really good stamina. As you can see, the max stamina is 33.6, which is really good. And on the back bar for healing utility, running Thicket, you can see healing Thicket's got a 10k tooltip. And I think that's about it. Like I said, I'm running Infused, Nernhoned with Disease, or you can run whatever you want, whatever suits your needs. All in pen, this is a medium armor build. And then, of course, I am running Tri-Stat Food. You could run Orc. You would sit slightly less HP, but you'd have the additional, probably would put you at like 9,500 effective weapon power. And then, of course, on a, let's just take a look at it, what it would look like on an Orc. Let's go right into here. Excuse me. I'm a little sick. So you gain access to Swifty armor, and you can see just shy of 9,500 with a little bit less HP, but a little bit more weapon damage. So for those who do run Orc, you can take a look at what it would look like. You'd sit at 9,500 effective weapon power. So it's really good. It's really high amount of weapon power for a no CP build. I think I see a lot of CP builds that sit around here. This is a really good build. This is basically what I'm going to be running for the next patch. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section. And of course, if this is your first time checking out my content, be sure to hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on further content. And if you do enjoy the content, be sure to hit the like button. I appreciate that. Everybody coming in, listening to this video. Thanks for watching. Take care. God bless.